Our story begins in the 8th century, a time of rapid change and uncertainty across Europe. The Roman Empire, a colossal entity that had stood like an unshakable monolith for centuries, had crumbled. Its demise created a power vacuum that sent shock waves throughout the continent. The once unified realm was now a jigsaw puzzle of fragmented kingdoms, each vying for control and dominance. Political instability was rife, and the continent was a tinderbox, ready to ignite at the slightest spark. In the midst of this chaos, a new faith was spreading like wildfire. Christianity, with its promise of salvation and eternal life, was rapidly gaining ground. It was a faith that sought to unify, but its rise often clashed with the long-held traditions and beliefs of the people it sought to convert. Nowhere was this more apparent than in the lands of the north. Here, the people held fast to their ancestral ways, worshipping a pantheon of gods that reflected their harsh and rugged environment. They revered the mighty Thor, god of thunder, the wise Odin, and the mischievous Loki. These were the deities that guided their lives, their values, and their actions. Yet, even as they clung to their old ways, these northern people were not immune to the winds of change sweeping across the continent. The political instability and economic uncertainty of the times were not lost on them. The fall of the Roman Empire had disrupted trade routes, and wealth was harder to come by. This was an era where survival often meant adaptability, and the people of the north began to look beyond their shores for opportunities. They were skilled seafarers, and their longships, sleek and swift, were perfectly designed for exploration and, if need be, confrontation. In this turbulent time, a new force was beginning to emerge in the north, the Vikings. Their dawn was just on the horizon, and their rise would not only reshape their own destiny, but the destiny of the entire European continent. In the harsh, rugged landscapes of Scandinavia, a warrior culture was taking shape. As the Viking Age dawned, this warrior culture would come to define much of the Viking way of life. Bound by the harsh conditions of their homeland, the Vikings were not just warriors but also skilled seafarers, navigating the treacherous waters of the North Sea to venture far beyond their homeland's borders. Living in a world dominated by the forces of nature, the Vikings developed a profound respect for the sea. Their longships, with their iconic dragon-headed prows, were not only vessels of war, but also symbols of their seafaring prowess. These ships, capable of navigating both open seas and shallow rivers, allowed the Vikings to explore, trade, and yes, raid across vast distances. But the Vikings' reputation as fearsome warriors was not solely due to their maritime skills. Their warrior ethos, deeply ingrained in their culture and way of life, played an equally significant role. Courage in battle was highly prized, and tales of brave warriors were woven into the fabric of their Norse mythology. The Vikings believed that the bravest among them would be chosen to fight alongside the gods in the final battle of Ragnarok, giving them a fierce determination on the battlefield that was hard to match. This combination of seafaring skills and warrior ethos set the stage for the Vikings' first raids on England and France towards the end of the 8th century. These raids, initially small in scale, were the first signs of the Vikings' growing ambition. Monasteries with their wealth of gold and silver were particularly attractive targets. The raid on the monastery of Lindisfarne in England in the year 793 is often considered the beginning of the Viking Age. But these raids were just the beginning. The Vikings were about to change the course of history. In the coming centuries, their influence would spread across Europe and beyond, leaving a lasting impact on the world as we know it today. But that, dear listeners, is a tale for another time. The Vikings were not just raiders and warriors, they were also explorers and settlers. As we delve deeper into the Viking era, we discover a people driven by a thirst for discovery and an insatiable curiosity about the world beyond their homeland. Their longships, the key to their exploration, were expertly designed for both the open sea and shallow rivers, enabling them to venture far and wide. Their first major voyage led them to the icy shores of Iceland around the end of the 8th century. They weren't deterred by the harsh, unforgiving landscape. Instead, they saw it as a challenge to conquer, and they did. They established settlements, and in doing so, they laid the groundwork for a nation that thrives to this day. But the Vikings didn't stop there. Emboldened by their success, they dared to venture further westward to the even colder and more remote lands of Greenland. Eric the Red, a man as bold and fiery as his name suggests, led this expedition. Despite its inhospitable climate, the Vikings managed to establish colonies and even developed a trading network with the indigenous Inuit people. Their most audacious voyage, however, was yet to come. A Viking explorer named Leif Erikson, son of Eric the Red, set his sights on a land even further west. He reached the shores of what is now known as North America, almost 500 years before Christopher Columbus. The settlement, known as Vinland, didn't last long, but it's a testament to the Vikings' daring spirit and their unparalleled skill in seafaring and exploration. These voyages weren't just about discovery, though. They were also about forging connections, establishing trade routes, and creating a network of Viking settlements stretching from their Scandinavian homelands to the furthest reaches of the known world. The Vikings had become a dominant force, but their greatest achievements were still to come. As we continue our journey through the Viking era, we'll see how they transformed from raiders and explorers to empire builders. So buckle up as we set sail for the next chapter of Viking history. By the 10th century, the Vikings had established an empire that spanned across Europe. The Viking Empire, an impressive network of kingdoms and territories, was a testament to the Vikings' prowess and strategic acumen. The three principal kingdoms at the heart of this empire were Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, each with its own distinct characteristics. Denmark, known for its fertile lands and strategic location, served as the launching pad for many Viking raids. Its position between the Baltic and the North Seas provided the Vikings with easy access to the rest of Europe. Norway, on the other hand, was characterized by its rugged terrain and fjords. The people here were expert seafarers, drawing on their knowledge of the sea and their shipbuilding skills to explore, trade, and conquer. Sweden, the easternmost of the three kingdoms, played a significant role in the Vikings' eastward expansion. The Swedes, or Rus as they were called, ventured into present-day Russia, Ukraine, and even as far as the Byzantine Empire, establishing lucrative trade routes along the way. The influence of the Vikings on the regions they ruled was profound. They brought with them their culture, language, and laws, shaping the social and political landscapes of these territories. Their seafaring skills and advanced shipbuilding techniques led to an increase in trade and economic growth. In England, they established the Danelaw, a region in which Danish law was recognized. In France, they founded Normandy, a region that would later play a pivotal role in European history. They even reached the distant shores of North America, predating Columbus's voyage by nearly 500 years. The Viking Empire was a vast network of diverse cultures and peoples, interconnected by trade routes and bound by shared experiences. It was a testament to the Vikings' adaptability, their strategic acumen, and their thirst for exploration. But as with all great empires, the Viking Empire had its zenith. By the end of the 10th century, it was a formidable force in Europe, a sprawling network of territories under Viking control. The Viking Empire was at its peak, but nothing lasts forever. The 11th century brought significant changes that signaled the end of the Viking Age. A time of transformation and transition, the Viking Age did not end abruptly, but rather slowly faded into the annals of history. The Christianization of Scandinavia played a pivotal role in this shift. The Viking culture, which was deeply rooted in Norse mythology and pagan traditions, started to witness the spread of Christianity. Kings and chieftains started to accept the new faith, and with them, their subjects followed. The transition wasn't always peaceful, but over time, the cross replaced Thor's hammer, and churches sprouted where once there stood pagan temples. Alongside this religious shift, another significant change was the establishment of centralized kingdoms. The Viking territories, which were once fragmented and ruled by local chieftains, were gradually unified under powerful monarchs. In Norway, Denmark, and Sweden, centralized authority replaced the old system of local governance. These kingdoms brought stability and order, but they also marked the end of the Vikings' era of exploration and expansion. The last Viking raids occurred in this period, with the infamous Harald Hardrada's invasion of England in 1066, marking the end of the Vikings' aggressive expansionist era. However, these raiders met with resistance and defeat, signifying a changing tide in power and dominance. In the same year, the Norman conquest of England took place. The Normans, descendants of the Vikings who had settled in what is now France, successfully invaded England. This event is often seen as the final chapter in the Viking Age. The Normans, though of Viking descent, were culturally distinct. They were Christian, spoke French, and had adopted a feudal system of governance. The Viking Age had ended, but their legacy would live on. The Viking influences are still evident today, from language and legal systems to place names and folklore. While the Viking Age may be a thing of the past, the Viking spirit of exploration, courage, and resilience continues to resonate in the modern world. The Vikings left a lasting impact on the world, shaping the course of history in profound ways. When we think of the Vikings, we often picture fierce warriors setting sail on their longships. But their legacy extends far beyond their martial prowess. The Vikings have influenced our modern world in many unexpected ways, contributing to our language, culture, and technology. English, as we know it today, has been significantly shaped by the Viking language, Old Norse. Words like knife, window, and even they, them, and their are all Viking contributions. They also gave us the names of 4 of our weekdays: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, named after the Norse gods Tyr, Odin, Thor, and Freya, respectively. Culturally, the Vikings have left an indelible mark. From their sagas and myths, we've gleaned insights into their worldview, values, and way of life. These stories continue to inspire modern literature, music, and art, from Tolkien's Middle-earth to Marvel's superhero Thor. In terms of technology, the Vikings were innovative shipbuilders and navigators. Their longship, with its shallow draft and symmetrical bow and stern, was a marvel of its time, enabling them to travel up rivers as well as across open seas. This technology revolutionized maritime travel and set the stage for future naval advancements. The influence of the Vikings can be seen most prominently in modern-day Scandinavia. The democratic systems of these countries, with their emphasis on social equality, can be traced back to Viking Age things, their assemblies where free men could voice their opinions. Even the Scandinavian tradition of sauna finds its roots in the Vikings' love for hot steam baths. In other parts of the world too, the Viking legacy lives on. From place names in the British Isles to genetic traces in the descendants of the Vikings, their influence remains palpable centuries after the end of the Viking Age. The Vikings may be gone, but their spirit lives on, a testament to their indomitable will and adventurous spirit. So there you have it, the rise and fall of the Viking Empire. From the dawn of the Viking Age, we've seen how these formidable warriors emerged from Scandinavia, carving out territories across Europe and beyond. We've charted their expansion, watched as they established a vast and influential empire, and witnessed the eventual decline of their age. Yet even as the Viking Age ended, their legacy continued to echo through the centuries. Their influence permeated culture, language, and even our modern understanding of navigation and exploration. The Vikings were not just raiders or conquerors, but also traders, explorers, and pioneers. Their story is a testament to human resilience, adaptability, and the relentless pursuit of exploration. Remember, history is not just about the past. It's about understanding who we are today. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep making history.